Hey, O's fans, that's more like it. The Orioles went to the Windy City and they have a history of kind of beating up on the White Sox, and they did it again. They swept that series. So after the panic that set in briefly in Birdland in Pittsburgh, got a lot better in Chicago. They're 6-6 coming home, and we're glad to be with you for our second show, Birdland Territory. Steve Melewski, former O's pitcher, Brad Brach, and Tim Barbalace from 105.7 The Fan. And guys, it always feels better to win. He cures all ills, even though it wasn't perfect. The Orioles, I don't think, are clicking on all cylinders by any means right now. Brad coming home 6-6. Nice few days in Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. I think after that series in Pittsburgh, like you said, the panic button was hit a little bit, but 3 wins are 3 wins. No matter how you get them in the big leagues, that they all count the same. So maybe not how everybody expects the Orioles or wants them to win, but like I said, 3-0 in a 3-game series is exactly what you're looking for. And they did a great job. They pulled out games, close games, and those are kind of momentum builders throughout the year.
And guys, I think when we did our first show on Sunday, we didn't know who was going to start the series opener. We speculated maybe Albert Suarez. I think you give a big hat tip to Brandon Young, man. With that spot start on Monday, setting the tone, you head into that game having lost 5 of 6. Brandon Young steps up, 5 shutout innings and just 66 pitches. And also for the defensive struggles that the Orioles have experienced, the defense was on display on Monday. You had 2 strike him out, throw him outs. Tyler O'Neill had the diving play in right field. And how about Pete Alonso, man? That play in the 9th inning, smothering that ball on the first base line, that really played a big role in saving that game.
Yeah,
go ahead, Brad.
Sorry, Steve. I think that play with Pete Alonso, I said when I was watching it, I'm thinking Orioles fans might not see the bat they expected so far, but I don't think anybody expected to see the glove like that. That was the play of the game. Like you said, that's very easily at least 1 run scored there, maybe gets 2 in with it. Who knows how the ball hits off the wall down the line. So unbelievable play by Pete there. And I think, bringing up the defensive part with having Brandon Young out there, he pounds his own, gets balls in play, and kind of kept guys in the game right away from the beginning. And I think that can help with your defense sometimes, is having guys that, don't strike everybody out and they just let the guys not that he's trying to let them put it in play, but the ball gets put in play a lot when he's pitching, and they're on their toes and ready to make the plays when the ball's hit to them.
And some nights in baseball, it won't be perfect. I think if fans or media or any of us are looking for the perfect win, a complete win, everything clicked, it's not going to happen. And in this series, guys, they won by 1, 2, and 2. So they didn't blow away the White Sox. In fact, they trailed in a couple of these games, but they made just enough plays to win. And maybe that's how the train gets rolling.
Well, Steve, I think yesterday's game was the perfect example of that. It was so frustrating watching all of the chances that this offense had. They left 14 runners on base, and you're trailing 2-1 at one point. You scratch and claw, and Gunnar Henderson came through with that big blow in the 8th inning, and it puts all of those woes behind you, where the frustrations with runners in scoring position, you started 1 for 11 in that game, and you're wondering, when is this offense going to wake up? But they found a way to win. And this early on in the season, Brad, when we were doing the show Sunday, 3-6, you're just looking to stack series wins. It's tough to pick up sweeps in MLB, especially on the road. And now you come home 500.
Yeah, that was huge. I think, like you're saying, with the offense, you want to see all these big hits with runners in scoring position. And a lot of times right now, they're just in a funk. They're not getting the base hits when they need it. But what was encouraging was seeing them put the ball in play, have RBI groundouts, have a sac fly. Those kind of things I feel like can lead to more momentum on the offensive side. And for me, this is going to seem obvious, but for me, the bullpen there, that was a huge series for the bullpen there. You found multiple guys that come in big spots, and they all stepped up. And I think that is also a huge momentum builder moving forward to the next series and beyond.
Brad, I thought today it was a big thing that Craig Albertaz put Anthony Nunez back out there in a leverage situation. It was identical to the moment Saturday in Pittsburgh, 1-run game in the 8th inning. And Nunez, he got the first 2 outs on 4 pitches and then ended that inning with a strikeout. I thought that was huge with Nunez.
Yeah, I think it's big. I think it goes to show you what they think of him. I think they see him as a setup 7th inning guy. maybe out there for, opportunities to close if they need be. But I think you're right. That's a great point. I didn't think about that, but getting them back out there, there was nothing better than, as a reliever, the manager putting you back out in that same spot in a big situation and coming through. For me, that was such a confidence booster. And I know for him, this is his first year in the big league. So to go out there and be able to get those outs today after he made the pitches, just didn't feel that ball the other day. So, but to go out in that same spot today and have such a clean inning, he has filthy stuff. He has elite stuff. So to take the elite stuff and then get the job done, I feel like was a huge confidence booster for him moving forward.
Interesting stuff on the bullpen, and the numbers back up what you guys were talking about there. The Orioles still aren't hitting a ton. We know that. They scored just 11 runs in Chicago, just 8 in Pittsburgh, but the Oriole bullpen, 1 run in the series in Chicago. That's over 11 innings with 15 strikeouts, 2.28 ERA on the road trip, 5.23 OPS against. All these numbers look good for a bullpen, which, oh, by the way, doesn't have Kittredge or Aiken right now.
Yeah.
They're going to get those guys back. Now, Brad, you were making a good point, you guys talking about Nunez. I want to ask you, because Albernaz said Anthony Nunez he doesn't show his emotions. He's real in control out there. For a guy who's hardly pitched in the big leagues a couple games now, as you said, the stuff looks really good. But is a separator maybe that guy who can just be calm out there? And he seems so much more mature than someone who's young.
Yeah, that's true. I think when you're asked to get big outs, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, those high leverage outs, you got to have a cool and calm collective demeanor, however way you can do it. But a lot of guys, it takes them years to learn how smooth and how nonchalant he's been out there when he's out in these games. So I think for him to have that from the get-go is really a good sign. And like I said, I think when you start getting these guys come in these positions that they're not necessarily used to, he's never been in the big leagues. You bring the closer today also, he's out there, never had a save opportunity in his career. And he falls and throws 7 pitches to start the inning and still gets the save. That is huge. And stuff like that, you can just grow from that day to day.
That's exactly where I was going, Brad, because they had Ryan Helsley yesterday, and it was shaky for him, but he was able to get the job done. So wasn't available today. You go with Rico Garcia, and we talked about him on Sunday, how he's been a real pleasant surprise for this club. At that point, it was 5 scoreless appearances. And how tough is that, being a reliever where 7 straight balls to start the 9th inning and then just finding it? Because that second batter, he ended up striking out despite going 3-0.
I know. I think I was talking about with Steve before we started how the 9th inning is just a different animal. I don't know how to explain it. Pitched in 7th and 8th a lot. When I got in the 9th inning, these guys are just not willing to take that bad swing, not willing to just take a bat at bat. They're all up there trying to get on base to get it to the next guy. And for whatever reason, the 9th inning is a different animal. And to start that off throwing 7 in a row, I wish I could say I hadn't been in that position before, but I know I have before, whether it was the minors, majors, I've done it before. And you're just like, am I ever going to throw this ball over the plate? And when I do, this guy's going to be ready to swing. But he did such a great job composing himself there, getting himself back into good counts. And then that nasty changeup he's throwing inside to the lefty, Morikawa for sorry if I said that wrong, for the White Sox, but he's throwing that changeup inside to him. And that's such a dangerous pitch to throw, but it shows the confidence he has in that pitch, because that's like the one thing they tell you not to do is throw an inside changeup to lefties, especially with the game on the line. And he came back to it multiple times in that bat and got that strikeout. And you can tell he kind of just rolled from there. So yeah, it's tough going out there when you have a 2-run lead, you walk the leadoff guy, but then you start the next guy 3-0. It's like you can kind of see it steamrolling the other way just as well as it can get going good for yourself. You can see it going bad, but he did a great job composing himself there and getting those final 3 outs.
Real impressive. From 7 pitches out of the strike zone, it looked like it was going to get away from the Orioles, and it didn't. Great job there by Rico Garcia. First career save in his 65th career appearance. And now we get to Taylor Ward. After I remind the viewers, thanks for finding us today here on Birdland Territory, a new show, our second show. Please subscribe. Please follow us. We're on Twitter and X as well. So check us out in all these channels, and glad you joined us today. 4 for 5, 3 doubles for Taylor Ward. Oh, by the way, he's not 2 for 15 anymore. And people wondering, should he be batting the leadoff? Guys, he's got 9 doubles in the last 8 games. He didn't have one in the first 4. What is going on with Taylor Ward right now? And he looks like such a great addition.
Steve, I just think his reputation coming over from the Angels was just his wealth of knowledge when it comes to the strike zone. And if you look at his Baseball Savant page, his StatCast, he's in the top percentile in chase rate. He doesn't chase. He doesn't swing and miss. And his walk percentage is great in the 85th percentile. He is that ideal leadoff man. And today they moved him out of the leadoff spot for the first time, bumping Gunnar down to the 2-hole, but coming through another 4-hit game. He had a 4-hit game last week. It was the first one of his career. Now he's got 2, and we're not even 2 full weeks into the season, Brad.
Yeah, his hitting approach is super impressive. I mean, he's hitting balls to right center, he's pulling balls to left field, he's hitting them in the gaps both directions. A guy like that is just really tough to get out. He does not want to expand the zone. He's not going to swing at balls. So you have to change the way these guys pitch nowadays. They're going to have to change the shape of their pitch, and he's able to see when it's up in the zone. And I think that's what he's seeing right now. He's super comfortable at the plate. There's really no pitch that he's not, he's not scared to be down 0-2 in at bats. And to me, that was always the hardest hitters to face, are guys that are willing to have 2 strikes and hit. And that's what he seems to be doing every single at bat. He's either at 3-2 or he's ahead in the count. And he's taking advantage of all the pitches he's seen in the zone. He's doing such a great job getting on base, driving in runs. And it's just awesome to see when, Pete's kind of struggling right now, but that's not going to continue. And I've always thought about lineups this way, where you fans obviously want to see every single hitter 1 through 9 hitting together. But when you have Gunnar and Taylor kind of carrying the offense right now, Pete's going to come around. You don't want all these guys crushing the ball all together. That'd be great if they could do it for 162, but it's just not possible. I just always thought of, like, when I'm on a team, I want to see a couple guys get hot together. And everybody's not going to stay cold the rest of the year. So Taylor's kind of carrying it right now. And like I said, they're getting wins any way they can. They're not ripping the cover off the ball, but they're doing just enough and having great pitching in order to get these wins. And that's really all you care about at the end of the day, is how many wins you get.
Sometimes box scores tell unique stories. The one for the Orioles offense today tells us that one player went 4 for 5 and everybody else went 3 for 28. Ward today had more hits than the entire rest of the lineup. Somehow it added up to an Oriole victory and a sweep in Chicago. A lot more to do tonight on the Birdland Territory. Glad you've joined us. Later in the show, we're going to talk about Adley Rutschman's playing time. What do we make of that? What we've seen so far, how they're using the catching. But next, how about the opening day lefty? He's still rolling in Birdland.
Big Bad Morning Show. Vinny and Haney. Inside Access. Live on YouTube weekdays 6 till 6. Search Baltimore 105.7 The Fan. Subscribe for daily shorts right to your phone and never miss what you missed. 105.7 The Fan.
You're watching Birdland Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, with Steve Melewski, Brad Brach, and Tim Barbalace. So this young left-hander, he's still kind of young to me. Trevor Rogers is got it going, guys. He's the only Oriole starter with a quality start this year. He's made 3 starts. His ERA is under 2 again. The Orioles have won each of his starts. Last year, they won 13 of 18. Almost any numbers we look at look so good right now. Let's start with you, Brad. What have you been most impressed by Trevor Rogers' start to this season?
I think just keep rolling what he's been doing. I think it's tough to carry success from one season to the next, and it seemed like he hasn't missed a beat. For me, this is the first time we've seen somebody in Baltimore that is either a streak ender or a streak continuer. They go 3 games, they lose 3 games, they get a win that first game of the series. You have Trevor Rogers. If they had lost that 4th one, he's the guy that stops those kind of streaks. And I just feel like there hasn't been a starter in Baltimore for a long time that is that guy, and he's that guy right now. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. On the broadcast, they were talking about him having better numbers than Skeens and Skubal. And anytime you're in that conversation right now, you're in good company, and he's living up to it. And I got to be honest, I think he's one of those guys where you got to show up to the ballpark to watch. I think he's put on that good of a stretch that it's almost must watch TV when he's pitching. And the Orioles have a chance to win every time he takes them out.
And Brad, that's stats. So it's 21 starts going back to May 24th of last season. That was when he was elevated as a 27th man.
All right, Tim, I think your internet book got you there, but you were making a great point at how he is. Go ahead, Tim, you're back.
He's got a 1.82 ERA in that 21 start stretch, and only Paul Skeens has a better ERA than Trevor Rogers. And you think of the story, guys. You traded for him at the 2024 deadline. He made all of 4 starts before getting sent down to the minors. He was hurt at the beginning of last year, came up as the 27th man in that game that I was mentioning, went back down, and then came back up, and it's just been on an unbelievable tear for this club. And Brad, we had him on my show on 105.7 The Fan prior to opening day. It was a week prior, and he's been very open about just his struggles with mental health, and just he got to a point where he thought his career was going to be over. He would just beat himself up when he would have these poor outings, he would have these poor starts, but now he's working with a mental coach, and he just seems like in a great headspace. It's cliche, but they do say baseball, it's 90% mental. Like, how much can that snowball on a pitcher or a player?
Yeah, big time. I think getting someone you're able to talk to. When I was playing, it was kind of like this like thing you don't talk about. You got to get over it. You got to figure it out. And I think teams start to hire mental skills coaches and just use these guys to your benefit, because it is tough when you get on a bad stretch. And when you get sent down, you're supposed to be part of this trade that's supposed to be, a front end line starter, and it just doesn't work out the way you envision it. It can be tough. And when you don't have, 9-10 years of sustained success to fall back on and kind of have in the back of your mind, I feel like it can snowball really bad. And I think he's just a perfect example of, if you put the work in, you work on your mental skills also, it can turn back the other way just as fast. And he obviously has the stuff. And it was probably more of a mental thing than anything else. And I think they had Povich yesterday on the broadcast, and he was talking about how Rogers had talked to him about being sent down and using those starts down in AAA to really get himself locked back in. And Cade kind of took that approach this year. He said when he went down to AAA, he was going to use those starts to help himself moving forward. And that's really all you can do. You just got to kind of have that one good outing and just kind of keep it in a positive light. And if you have a bad one, you got to kind of just know how to kind of compartmentalize it and move on from there. But it's a lot easier said than done. And really, I didn't really get in a good spot until I was probably 5-6 years in, when I started working with the mental skills coach, and you just kind of helped me kind of put everything in perspective. And it's okay to have these negative thoughts. You just got to be able to move past them quicker, especially as a reliever when you get more outings than you do a starter. I just couldn't imagine sitting around 4 days after a bad one or a really bad one and just sitting on it over and over and over again. That's why I think the starting pitchers are just so impressive, how they're able to, have their start, good, bad, indifferent, get their work in, be ready to go the next time. But it's definitely not easy when you get traded over to an organization that has these high hopes for you. It doesn't go well, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. So, kudos to him, and it's really just great to see him back out there just being the dominant pitcher that I think everybody thought they expected to see.
Here's a question Birdland's asking. Is Trevor Rogers an ace? My answer to that is, okay, the industry doesn't consider him in the same stratosphere as Skeens and Skubal as those guys, but his results are there. And when he does it more and more, as he's starting to, he's very much pitching like an ace. Whether he gets that label or not, who cares? It's the results the Orioles care about, and they're very much ace-like.
Look at the raw numbers, you look at the advanced analytics. He has been one of, if not the best pitcher in baseball since coming up at that point in late May. And I think that's where the discussion goes a step further, Steve, where some fans in the Orioles have been proactive recently about exploring extension talks with players. They just got an extension done with Shane Baz at the beginning of the season. I think this is a guy that you should explore talking to. I think he clearly loves pitching in Baltimore, and I'm sure he has a soft spot for this organization for really turning his career around here. And I asked him the question prior to opening day. They haven't talked to him yet. He said he would be open to discussions during the season, but it would be great to lock up this type of arm long-term, Brad. You mentioned the fact that having this caliber of a pitcher, the Orioles had that 1 year with Corbin Burns, but it would be nice to lock this guy up.
Yeah, 100%. I think he has, he's a lefty on top of all that. Yeah. So it's like you're looking for, and you can say, is he an ace? Well, you know what? He's the Orioles ace, and there's no doubt about it. And he is doing it by pitching well and proving it himself. So whether people can consider him an ace throughout baseball, I don't think the Orioles care, and I don't think Baltimore should care, because he's the ace of this team and he's leaving no doubt about it. But I agree with you. I think he's one of those guys you got to, if it's possible at all, you got to lock him up, because he's obviously hitting a stride here. He feels comfortable here in Baltimore. And just like hearing these guys talk, we talked about it last show, but there is major chemistry on this team. Every single guy talks about it. It's been every after game interview. It's been every interview I've seen to this point. They constantly talk about the clubhouse. So, you always wonder what could be elsewhere. But when you have something good going on while you're in a city with a bunch of guys you love playing, there's nothing better than that. And I don't care the amount of money you get. There's no amount of dollar you can put on being comfortable in a place you enjoy playing. And he's obviously showing that right now with the way he's pitching and performing for the Orioles.
Great stuff by you guys there. And some of these StatCast stats don't make sense at times. Here's one from last year for Rogers. In hard hit percentage, he was in the 3rd percentile. That means bottom of the league, and yet his ERA and his results were so good. This year, he's in the top 17% in not allowing not a lot of hard hit. So if this guy goes from he's got command, he's increased his velo the last year or two, now he's hard to square up, and last year was a little easier by metrics, he might have it all. That's what Oriole fans are hoping.
And what's really impressive, and I know the ballpark is a lot different now than when you pitched in it, Brad, but his ERA at home is unbelievable. Steve, last year he had an ERA below 1 at Camden Yards, and you look at the splits, you're trying to find areas in which, is he struggling against righties? He's struggling. 519 OPS against righties, a 427 OPS against lefties last year. It's so hard to poke a hole in Trevor Rogers. The one area that you could say this season is with 2 outs. That's where he's given up the 4 earned runs, the 2 in this past game and the 2 in the prior game. 808 OPS off of him with 2 outs this season, but a very, very small sample size.
Yeah, that was the one thing. Just speaking of pitching at Camden Yards, anytime I had, buddies in another team, they come over talking, how do you pitch in this park? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like you said, the park has changed a little bit, but it was one of those things you just didn't talk about. You didn't worry about. I always thought it was very comfortable pitching there. You just try not to worry about the dimensions and how the ball flies in the summertime. But I agree with you. I just don't know. You can look up and down. Someone's going to try to find some stat or number that's going to, but they win games. Like you said, I think you said 15 out of 18 his last 18 starts. That's what you're looking for when you have a starting pitcher out there. And it's hard to poke a hole in that number. And that's all the Orioles should care about at this point.
He's become that guy that fans are going to say it's Trevor Rogers Day, like they say it's Skeens Day or Scooble Day. That's a can't miss television, can't miss get to the ballpark to see it. And Trevor Rogers rolling again early for the Orioles. Guys, let's get to a topic that's kind of interesting here. And Tim, you were talking about it earlier this week. Adley started 8 out of 12 behind the plate. Basayo started 4 out of 12. They've been in the same lineup together just 4 times. I thought I would find out it's more than that. But DH Basayo, catch Rutschman, where they've both been in there only 4 times, and none in the last 5 games. It's been one or the other. So it's kind of interesting how they're using Rutschman right now.
Well, I'm paraphrasing here, but Craig Albernaz, because Adley was out of the lineup yesterday, and that was his 4th time not being in the starting lineup. And at that point, in 11 games, so you're talking more than a third of the games, Adley Rutschman was not in the starting lineup, and he's been one of their better offensive players. Today, he didn't have a hit, but he drove in a run on a sac fly. Craig Albernaz, he brought up a conversation that he had with Buster Posey back in 2021. And Buster was telling him how he really broke down and felt like he didn't have as many off days as he would have preferred. And clearly that conversation made an impact on Craig Albernaz. And make no mistake about it, guys. I'm sure one of the biggest objectives for Craig Albernaz and Mike Elias this offseason, how do we fix Adley Rutschman? We talked about it on the first episode. This team has gone as Adley has gone. And the past year and a half, I think he's dealt with a ton of injuries. So is this a situation where they're just trying to keep him as healthy as possible, maybe baby him a little bit? I hate to use that word, but Brad, it's a tough line to walk, keeping arguably one of your more productive offensive players out of the lineup that often. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a tough line to walk and it's a tough line to figure out. But what better example than Buster Posey? I mean, one of the better offensive catchers in the last generation of players. So it's a great example to go by. But it's definitely going to be something tricky to figure out because it's a bat you got to have in the lineup. But how do you have him at 100% or as close as 100% as you can be throughout the season? So this will be interesting storyline or kind of topic to see how they continue doing it because 4 out of every 11 games sitting just doesn't seem sustainable at this point. But you really don't know you really don't know how it's going to go. But it'll definitely be interesting to see how they run him out there. And I'm sure there's going to be stretches where he has, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, those kinds of things. But I think those more off days are going to be in there, sprinkled in there here and there. But I think it goes to show with Basayo that they trust him back behind the plate too. So I think it's having that guy you can plug in there and you feel like you don't miss a beat with him back there. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how they do it and kind of see if Adley starts giving feedback like, hey guys, I'm good today. I might need one in a couple of days, but I want to play 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row,
And Steve, I know you recently in the past couple of weeks put out your international prospects list on Substack, and we were talking about it on opening day with Samuel Basayo. And yes, he's struck out and he's yet to really get going, but the confidence that they have in him, Steve, where he's batting cleanup or batting 5th, he's not in the bottom third of the lineup. They're giving him some serious opportunities.
They are. And I mean, I think fans are starting to find out this kid's mature beyond his years. And he told me late last year, he felt like he was slowly gaining the trust of the pitching staff, not only in what he was calling, but he had a couple missed blocks last year and a couple that, really bounced and looked rough for him. But I don't think that many. And the Orioles have told me for years when this kid was on the farm, he can catch in the major leagues. I had scouts who told me he can't and he won't. But some of those gentlemen proved to be wrong. I didn't have a lot, but I had a few who said, I don't think he's going to catch in the major leagues. And so what do you see from him, Brad, back there so far?
I think he's fine. And I think, learning from a guy like Adley is huge. Having a guy that you get to watch on a daily basis who's done it for a few years now. And he's young himself. So he's not that far ahead of Basayo. And I just think the more he gets back there, the more comfortable he's going to get. And I think the more comfortable he gets, the more comfortable the pitchers will get. It's kind of a give and go relationship when it comes to pitchers and catchers. But, with the pitch comm and everything like that now, I feel like it can get kind of accelerated and the relationship can get a lot easier that way faster, as opposed to when I was there and having to put the signs down and new catchers trying to figure you out. It just can kind of be like when you're back there shaking. No. It can get a little frustrating. Maybe frustrating is the wrong word. It's just, okay, yes, I'm going to call this because I think he's got a good idea for this. But I think with the pitch comm, it kind of helps speed up that, you're not sitting there shaking 5 pitches off. It's just either the pitcher can click it or he puts it down right away and you're, yep, let's go. So I think that takes away that little doubt that you might have with a newer catcher or younger catcher.
It's a good point. And some veteran pitchers, essentially, they always called their game. The pitchers, if the pitcher doesn't want to throw the pitch, he shakes to what he wants. But now they don't have to do that. Some of these pitchers initiate the pitch comm. And Trevor Rogers told me he initiated a couple games last year with Basayo. Not that he had any issue with him, but just like you just said, maybe a smoother process, take one thing off of this kid. And so we believe in him, but let me roll it, because he's going to have the final say anyway, no matter who puts a finger down or hits the button. So I think he's making nice progress. And for me, that arm would be wasted in a lot of other defensive spots. I mean, that is a hose back there.
And something that we've seen, and especially in this White Sox series, guys, throwing behind runners, that has to have been a point of emphasis by Craig Albornaz, because the amount that we've seen it at the beginning of this season, I can't recall seeing it this much last year.
Yeah, very well could be. I think they were, you never see that many back takes. It could have very well been the way the White Sox are so aggressive on the bases. I mean, they were borderline reckless out there. It ended up working in their favor. I just can't imagine that kind of base running continuing to be successful throughout the year. There was a couple, delayed steals here or there, and it kind of took the Orioles by surprise. But yeah, I think it's probably is a point of emphasis. They have good arms back there. Why not use them? If you can catch one out a series as a freebie, why not try it? As long as you're not throwing the ball in the outfield and making bad throws or kind of dumb throws, why not use that as a weapon and use it to your advantage?
So, guys, man, we hit on some good topics. That was an interesting show just to be a part of. Hopefully, when people are watching it, they're going to feel the same. But we're underway. Show number 2, just about in the books here on Birdland Territory. And we'll have another one coming pretty soon after this. So don't go too far. Please check out our X site, but also YouTube, of course, and subscribe. Follow Birdland Territory any chance you get, and watch all these great videos we're going to have coming your way all season long. All right, guys, thanks. Until we meet again here for Brad Brach and Tim Barbalace, I'm Steve Melewski. Thanks for checking out Birdland Territory.